In today's video, we're going to cover how to express a solution using interval notation. Say we have the inequality x is greater than 2. First, let's represent this on a number line. If the point 0 is here, then 2 would be somewhere to the right over here. And as we go all the way to the left, we have negative infinity and positive infinity on the right. Since x is only greater than 2 and not greater than or equal to 2, that means that 2 itself is not included. And to represent that, we need an open circle at 2, and being greater than 2, we need to shade to the right where the numbers are larger than 2. Now, since x was just greater than 2 and not greater than or equal to 2, that gave us the open circle, and in interval notation, that's represented with a parentheses. So we'll start with parentheses, and we're always going to put the numbers from smallest to largest, in this case left to right. The farthest to the left we get is 2. We'll start with 2. We always put a comma between the numbers, and then we go all the way to the right without stopping. So we'll go all the way up to infinity, and then we always use parentheses with infinity, regardless if it's positive or negative, since it's a concept and not an actual number. Now, what if our inequality was x is greater than or equal to 5? Like before, we'll use a number line. If 0 is here, 5 is going to be to the right over here, negative infinity to the far left, and positive infinity to the right. In this inequality, we're greater than or equal to 5. So this time, it's not going to be an open circle, but a closed circle at 5 to indicate that we're including the 5 here. And then we'll shade to the right, since x was greater than or equal to 5. Using interval notation, we can list the numbers from left to right. The farthest to the left we get was 5, so we can start with 5, comma, and we go all the way up to infinity. But this time, since we were greater than or equal to, that gave us a closed circle, and we're going to represent that with a bracket this time to show it includes the 5. And like before, anytime there's infinity, we have to use a parentheses. So anytime we have a less than or greater than sign, then on the number line, we'll need to use an open circle, and with interval notation, that's going to need a parentheses. On the other hand, if we have less than or equal to, or greater than or equal to, then on the number line, we're going to use a closed circle, and with the interval notation, that's going to need a bracket. Finally, with positive or negative infinity, we're always going to be using a parentheses in interval notation. Let's look at another example. Say we have x is less than 1. We'll draw the number line from negative infinity to infinity. Let's place 1 right here. X is just less than 1, not or equal to, which means we're going to have to use an open circle since we're not including the 1. And then for the shading, we need to use the numbers less than 1, which would be going to the left on the number line. Using interval notation, we always go from the smallest number to the largest, or left to right. So the farthest to the left we go is negative infinity. And like we saw, positive or negative infinity requires a parentheses. So we're going to open parentheses, negative infinity, comma, and then we go all the way up to 1, and open circle, because we're not including, therefore close with parentheses. Now, if we have x is less than or equal to negative 2, we have our number line, negative 2 over here, both infinities. This time the x is less than or equal to, so we need to use a closed circle to show that we're including the negative 2, and we'll be shading to the left since it was less than. The leftmost amount is negative infinity, comma, and we're going up to negative 2. Infinities always have parentheses, and this time, since we're less than or equal to, and we have a closed circle, we're going to use a bracket. Now let's look at compound inequalities. Say we have x is greater than or equal to negative 3, but less than 5. If we're reading this inequality left to right, it does say negative 3 is less than or equal to x, which is less than 5. But to keep it simple, we can read it starting with the x. In this case, x would be greater than or equal to negative 3, and still less than 5. First, let's plot those two numbers on a number line. If negative 3 is over here, then 5 needs to be somewhere to the right over here. First, let's do the circles, and then we'll do the shading. X was greater than or equal to negative 3, so we're going to need a closed circle at negative 3. On the other side, x is less than 5, which does not include 5, so therefore we need an open circle. Since x is greater than or equal to the negative 3, we need to shade to the right from negative 3. And looking at the 5 side, x is less than 5, so we need to shade to the left of 5, which looks like this. Let's put down the numbers from left to right. We have negative 3, comma, 5. -3 was closed circle because it was or equal to. That gives us a bracket. And then on the 5 side, it was just less than and not including the 5, so we'll just use parentheses. Now what if we have two inequalities, one where x is less than 0 or x is greater than or equal to 3? Let's use the number line. Let's plot 0 here and 3 somewhere to the right and use the same rules. First we'll start with the circles. X is less than 0. It does not include 0, so we need an open circle. Because it's less than, we need to shade to the left. On the other side, x is greater than or equal to 3, so it includes the 3, and therefore we need a closed circle. And being greater than, we need to shade to the right. Last time the shadings converged in the middle, and this time they're diverging. They're going opposite directions. So how do we represent this in interval notation? Let's start with x is less than 0. We know to the far left is -infinity. So we're going from -infinity up to 0. Infinities always have parentheses. This 0 was not included, so we're going to use parentheses. On the other side, we're starting at 3. That's the leftmost of this set. So we need a bracket to show that we're including the 3. We go from 3 up to positive infinity, close with parentheses. And in between, we're going to use a u, which represents union, which joins the two sets together. So looking at the notation, we're going from -infinity up to 0 and stopping without including 0. And then we jump over to 3, including the 3, all the way up to infinity. Now instead of or, what if this had said and? Is that possible? Let's take a look. Can we have numbers that are less than 0 and also greater than or equal to 3? Clearly that's not possible, so there's no solution. It would be an empty set. Along with the u representing union, which joins two sets together, there's also intersection, which is represented by an upside down u, like this. Think of the intersection as the overlap between the two sets. For example, let's say x is greater than 1 and x is less than or equal to 6. To help visualize this, let's draw two number lines, one just above the other. Let's start with x is greater than 1. We'll have 1 here. We know we're greater than, not or equal to, so we need an open circle. And because it's greater than, we'll shade to the right. On the other number line, we'll graph x is less than or equal to 6. And the idea of having the two number lines is to have them overlapping as if the numbers lined up. So if 1 is over here for the top number line, then it's directly below on the second number line, meaning 6 is going to have to be somewhere to the right over here. Since we have less than or equal to, we need a closed circle. And less than means we need to shade to the left. Because we're looking for the intersection, the interval notation can only include the numbers that are present in both sets, where they overlap. On the first number line, 1 was the farthest to the left that we could go, so we have a hard stop there. We cannot go anywhere past that. And on the second number line, 6 was as far to the right as we could go. So the overlap is from 1 to 6. We'll start with the 1, that's the farthest to the left, comma, farthest to the right is 6. 1 has an open circle, we're going to use parentheses, and 6 has a closed circle, so we'll use a bracket. Thanks for watching. If you found this video helpful, please smash that like button and subscribe for more videos.